Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning into News9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi. Joining me here in the studio are my colleagues Lakshana Gulati and Ghulam Jilani. And we're also going to be joined by Barkhat Rehan, who's the president of the Purush Ayog. She's a TEDx speaker. There's so much that Barkha has done herself. And why India needs UCC is going to be our question over the next couple of minutes. There's a documentary that Lakshana you've produced. Yes. We're going to talk about that as well. But more importantly, let's lay the semantics out there for all the people. Because, you know, in India, today, the Uniform Civil Code is certainly a hot button issue. And what are the arguments and controversies surrounding this hot button issue? Well, that's something that we're going to be focusing on a little bit. Now, the concept of a UCC, a Uniform Civil Code, has been a subject of intense discussion for decades in our country. It aims to establish a common set of laws for personal matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption, applicable to all citizens regardless of their religious beliefs. But what does the Indian Constitution say about this? According to Article 44 of the Constitution of India, the state shall endeavour to secure a uniform civil code for its citizens. However, the implementation of a UCC has remained discretionary, recognizing the sensitivity and complexity of the issue. Now, our country, known for its religious diversity, currently has different personal laws based on religious affiliations. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, and others have their own distinct sets of personal laws. But why has the UCC suddenly become a bone of contention, particularly ahead of the 2024 Lok Sabha polls? Political parties and groups have voiced contrasting opinions. The central government defends its UCC push, while the opposition argues against its necessity. So tonight, we ask the crucial questions. What are the arguments in defense of the UCC? Does it seek to enforce a uniform legal framework for all at all? Is the opposition's claim that it violates religious freedom lacking logic and reasoning? And could implementing a common civil code promote equality and justice for all genders across all and different communities? We have gathered a panel of esteemed guests. We've got a journalist behind that documentary. We've got a UCC expert, in-house expert in the shape of Ghulam Jilani. And of course, we have experts from various backgrounds who will shed light on these particular issues. More importantly, what are the arguments by the center on UCC when it comes out and defends UCC? We're going to be talking about all of that, expanding this discussion. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, News9 Plus. It's that application that you must have on your television or your mobile phones. It's the world's first news OTT. We have lots of cutting-edge documentaries with incisive analysis. In the time that you have, I'm sure and promise you that we're going to leave you informed than you were certainly before. Before we begin this discussion, grab a snippet of this documentary called Why We Need UCC, a personal choice. What's the name of the documentary, Lakshana?
It's not personal.
It's not personal.
Yes.
It's not personal. Why it's not personal? Well, take a look at this snippet and then we'll come back for more.
The Uniform Civil Code has been envisaged and has existed in the Constitution of India from 1950.
One nation, one law will not work at all in our country. Is it fair to the people to have all the laws stuck down in one shot and to bring in the UCC?
Any such law cannot be concerned with the way you solemnize your marriage, your customs, your rituals.
The idea is to bring up to speed equity and dignity for our daughters as much as for our sons.
Why am I doing this story? Because it concerns me. As a woman, as a reporter, as it should concern you. My rights are what gives me dignity. But are my rights different from yours? If I belong to another religion in India, if I get divorced, or if my husband wants to marry again, or if I want to inherit my family's property, or if I want to adopt a child. I was too young to understand what Shah Bano was fighting for. But today, as a reporter, I went to Saharanpur with lanes like Shah Bano's Indore to understand why my rights and hers are so different, and why the debate on the Uniform Civil Code should matter to all of us.
मेरा नाम राखी है। मेरी उम्र 35 वर्ष है। मैं मुजफ्फरनगर की रहने वाली हूँ। मेरी शादी यहाँ पे सहारनपुर में हुई है।
मैं यूपी से बिलोंग करती हूँ। मैंने एमए किया इकोनॉमिक्स से जी।
शादी के बाद जो मेरे हस्बैंड थे वो अच्छे नहीं थे।
हमारे शौहर पहले शुरू में तो सही रहते थे, मगर बाद में कहना शुरू कर दिया था कि मैंने तुम्हारे से शादी लालच में करी है।
किसी और लड़की से बात करते थे और मैं खुद उन्हें दूसरे के पास से लेके भी आई हूँ। इसलिए घर में बहुत ज़्यादा झगड़े करते थे। उन्होंने फिर मुझे मार पीट के घर से निकाल दिया।
उनका लालच इतना बढ़ता चला गया, फिर वो मुझसे बोलने लगे कि हमने तो तुम्हारे से लालच में शादी करी थी, अब जब हमारा लालच पूरा नहीं हुआ तो अब हम तुम्हारा क्या अचार डालें। और मैं अब ये कहने लगे थे कि अब मैं दूसरी शादी करूंगा, अब तू बुर्का ओढ़ और तुझे अभी घर छोड़ के आऊंगा।
Rewind to circa 1985. The Shah Bano judgment. Abandoned by her husband, Shah Bano went to court like Rakhi and Yasmin.
All she wanted was maintenance for herself and her 5 children. And by that time she was almost 70. And the Supreme Court favored her. And her husband lost the case. This was seen as an act of interference. It was a Rajiv Gandhi government which succumbed to the mulladom and without realizing the consequences.
Circa 2023. Has anything changed? Is Yasmin any better off than Shah Bano?
मैं तो कोर्ट भी गई हूँ, मैंने अपनी एप्लीकेशन भी डाली उनके खिलाफ, मगर अभी तक अब मुझे वहाँ से कोई इंसाफ नहीं मिला। सिर्फ अब देखिए 1.5 साल हो गया मुझे लड़ते लड़ते।
सिर्फ एक मेंटेनेंस के लिए ही तो आई थी शाह बानो। शाह बानो भी तब मजबूर थी, आज यास्मीन भी मजबूर है।
Rakhi can claim protection from a second marriage of her husband and maintenance under Section 13A of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955. Yasmin cannot under the Sharia Application Act 1937.
दोनों औरतें, both are women, both are Indians, but the difference is they belong to different community, different religion. तो ये जो रिलीजन की जो दीवार है ये खत्म होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि इट्स अ वायलेशन ऑफ आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन।
ऐसी दोहरी व्यवस्था से देश कैसे चल पाएगा? हमें याद रखना है कि भारत के संविधान में भी नागरिकों के समान अधिकार की बात कही गई है।
India is home to people from the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian and Buddhist communities, amongst many others. So far, laws relating to marriage, divorce, inheritance and adoption are governed by different laws in different communities.
Well, So that's the snippet of the documentary. You can, of course, catch the entirety of it on the News9 Plus application. Download it right now. It's available on the Apple App Store and the Android App Store as well. Now, Lakshna is the journalist behind this particular, documentary. And Lakshna, some of the first few questions that you've asked, they're very self-introspecting questions that you've asked. Why do I need to be asking these questions? Why does it matter to me?
And I think every journalist should ask that before you begin on a story. And honestly, Kabir, I'll tell you, the UCC is it's a political, legal, socio story, right? And the way I approached it, if you see it, the first part is extremely social, because I think that gets lost in the whole political debate of it. Why are we doing this story? Why should it concern me as it should concern you, right? Why is it that we need to understand what the UCC is all about, right? Before we try and debate the whole pros and cons of it, right? So to understand that, actually, I wanted to do a ground report. I wanted to understand what
did you understand? Who did you speak to? Who were the, some prominent voices that you spoke to? And what did you understand?
So I spoke to a lot of prominent voices, but before that, I spoke to 2 women who you would not ordinarily speak to. These are women on ground zero. These are women in a small town who are actually going through a very similar fate, right? This concerns their marriage, and this concerns their divorce, and this concerns their right to maintenance, right? Now, if you see the documentary, one of them has the right to maintenance and legal protection, and the court is actually, she's actually stipulated to get maintenance from her husband as a legal right, while the other woman doesn't, right? So I wanted to understand, why is this dichotomy in 2 women who've suffered the same fate, but why is their recourse to law so different, right? And to understand that, I went to experts, right? Because you need experts to decode this for you, right? So I went to Flavia Agnes, because she's done a lot of work in gender justice. She's actually written a book on personal laws in India. I went to, from the government, we went to Sushil Modi. In fact, Jelani,
the right person on that parliamentary panel.
So, and these are the voices that matter. These are the voices that will actually shape the debate, that shape the lives of these 2 people on ground, right? So what I understood is that we in India are very diverse people, right? We are not, we belong to very different communities. The communities are very, very bound by their own traditions and practices.
I mean, we are a cultural melting pot.
We are a cultural melting pot, and that is our strength, right? And there's no doubt that we are also a patriarchal society, right? Which is why right from 1930s is when the All India Women's Conference also made a pitch for the UCC, right? But to understand this in the current political context is, where is this debate going now? It's not the India of 1930s. We are everybody takes their traditions, their practices and their culture very, very personally, right? If I ask you to disassociate from the customs and practices that your parents have been following, your grandparents have been following, it's bound to create discomfort. It's bound to create unrest.
Why is the documentary named "It's Not Personal"?
Because it's not. The idea is to lessen the discomfort and make it maybe a kinder, more just and a gentler.
Essentially, since times have changed since 1930, and I'll rope in Jelani ji on this one. Since times are changing, maybe our outlook towards UCC needs to change as well. There's some sort of revision that needs to happen over there as well. What's your take on that?
Yes, Kabir, I agree with you. If you look at our personal and religious laws, there are discrepancies in these laws. If you look at the, as Lakshna has rightly shown in the documentary, one woman comes from a particular religion, she has a recourse to, have her grudges resolved. But another woman from a different religion, she can't. So that is where the discrepancies are. Why can a woman from a particular religion, have a recourse, and same woman in the same country, in fact within the same city, she doesn't have a recourse? So we need to look at these personal laws per se. And if you look at the UCC debate, it's important right now because it has become political, right? BJP since 1985 or even before that, it was in their manifesto. We remember Shama Prasad Mukherjee's slogan, Ek Vidhan, Ek Nishan, Ek Pradhan. You know, BJP, whenever they come to elections, they have these 3-4 things in their manifesto. The first was Ram Mandir, which is about to complete. Another was abrogation of Article 370, which has been done. Triple Talaq has been
right, and UCC is also a part of that manifesto.
UCC is part of that manifesto. I would call it an unfinished task for the BJP. And we are heading towards 2024 elections. We are less than a year to 2024 elections, and Indian elections, you know, are very emotional. You don't contest elections on less emotional issues. People contest elections on emotional issues. So UCC will be one of the issues that BJP will play up, apart from the Ram Mandir, which is going to complete in few months. So these two issues, I think BJP will go to the people and talk about it. I think UCC will remain relevant for the whole year till we have 2024 elections. Another aspect is, people will ask why BJP didn't bring it up in last almost 2 terms. You know, they have been in power for 10 years.
Timing is suspect.
Timing is suspect. But again, you know, if you look at the opposition, barring Congress, everybody has kind of cleared their stand, but Congress is still, you know, they are doing that wait and watch policy. Why? Because if you look at Congress, they will want clarity in the sense, we don't have a draft of this UCC yet. Draft will come because the Law Commission has just extended the date for gathering the feedback. So once the draft will come out, the Congress will decide, because you know, there are some issues that you do, you're doomed. You don't do, you are still doomed. It's like if you do Hindutva, you will be called, why are you doing Hindutva? But you do soft Hindutva, still you are called, bhai hamare liye to Hindutva hai, soft Hindutva, what does it mean? You know, it's like Coke and Diet Coke. If you have Coke, why opt for Diet Coke? So I think Congress is, you know, following that wait and watch policy. It has not cleared its stand yet. Many parties like the Aam Aadmi Party has said it will support it in principle, but parties like Akhilesh Yadav Samajwadi Party have opposed it. So it is, I would say, to sum it up, it is a political issue. People who support it have elections in their mind. People who oppose it have politics in
well,
their mind.
Lakshna and Ghulam, we have Barkhat Rehan with us, joining us here. Barkhat ji, what's your viewpoint on this? We've got Lakshna in the studio, who's given us a social, viewpoint on the entire tussle, and we've got Ghulam Jilani Saab, who's given us a political, perspective on this entire bone of contention. Where do you stand? Do you think it gives us, some sort of, equality, or does it curtail religious freedom? Where are you standing here? And of course, let's not forget, 2024 is right around the corner. It's impossible to look at anything under the sun non-politically.
I feel that every citizen should have equal scrutiny. I hope I'm audible.
Right, you are. Please go on.
Yeah, I feel that every citizen of this country should have equal status. There should be no discrimination on the basis of religion, on the basis of gender as well. See, we have been discussing, everybody, Lakshna has also discussed, and my co-panelists has also discussed, how women will benefit, how especially Muslim women will benefit from this. There's no doubt, there's no second thought about it. I wonder why people are opposing it. But my question, since the draft is not there, everybody is been telling that the draft is not there, and still the people are sending their feedback. 2 weeks have been extended. But my question here comes is, will it be gender neutral? Will it be same? Will the law be same for women, men and transgender? All will be on the same platform? One nation, one law? As Pradhan Mantri Modi says, our Prime Minister Modi says, एक देश में एक ही कानून तो चलेगा. So क्या एक घर में 2 अलग-अलग कानून होंगे? One for the wife and one for the husband? No, not at all. So everybody should stand. There should be a clarity on this. I really need. I've been working hard since a decade on this issue of gender neutrality. We're living in the 21st century. We ape the West for every odd thing. So why not gender neutral laws? Let's everybody come on the same platform, be it a man, be it a woman, be it a transgender. Anyone can use the law.
Barkha our situation is also a little bit different. No, our situation is a little bit unique. I mean, history is witness to the kind of cultural melting pot India has been for the longest time. Be it a confluence of, ethos, confluence of education, confluence of academics, confluence of cuisines, you name it. India is that melting point. And I'm willing to take, your answer. I'm just asking you, do you think it'll be fair? It'll be fair to have gender neutral laws given our unique situation?
Exactly. It will be fair. Times have changed. Times have changed. I'd like to quote some NCRB data to prove my point. NCRB data says male suicide is 3 times more. That is, I'm talking about husband suicides. It is 3 times more. So when it is 3 times more, then who needs protection, man or woman? So that is why I'm saying times have changed, and India badly need of our is gender neutral laws. One nation, one law for the betterment of all the citizens. It will help many women across the globe. In India, all the women should be happy that they are getting UCC, especially Muslim women. But it will help men, the 51% of the country, be it any religion, because men are facing a lot, they are going through a lot of trauma. So when they come, when UCC comes, the biggest help will be towards the mankind, the men of this country. I have a different perspective on this, which I have shared right now with you. But again, I welcome this. The opposition parties, those who are opposing this, they should rethink about this, and whosoever says that is it's election time and that is why this UCC was brought, then it is okay. Every time is election time in this country. Every day you have elections. So you finish one and then you get another one.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe all that we're doing, anything that happens in this country happens for electoral gains. But your point taken, pertinent points that you've raised there, Barkha, do stay on with us. Lakshna, in the documentary you also spoke about the Shah Bano case. You wanted to learn something that you wanted to pick it up, the Shah Bano case, what you thought of it back in the day and the understanding that you have of it now. What has changed in your own psyche about UCC vis-a-vis the Shah Bano case?
So Kabir, when I was doing my research, the one article or the one thing that kept coming up was the Shah Bano case, right? So I wanted to understand what it is, and I was too young in 1985, to understand. I mean, I wasn't even born. Yeah, pretty much. So, and why is it that this one woman?
I just saw Ghulam let out a sigh. I'm sure Ghulam was born.
Yeah. So events
we'll get your input in just a bit.
So events that have shaped something from the time we weren't even born, that have been carrying on till now. This was this one woman was at the center of a UCC storm then, and this is the UCC debate is something that has been carrying on till now. Right. So what is it that this woman kind of went through? What was her situation? What was her particular case? So again, it was the same thing that one of my ladies who I spoke to in the documentary was going through. Her husband, Shah Bano's husband, was a prominent lawyer in Indore, right? And he, after many years of marriage to Shah Bano, took in another woman, married her, right? And Shah Bano, along with her 5 children, was left to her own devices. She was basically thrown out of her home, right? And she went to court and she demanded maintenance. Just a simple thing, right? That any wife, any ex-wife is also entitled to under section 125 of the CRPC, right? Now, while the Supreme Court gave its judgment in the affirmative, unfortunately, it was seen as interference in Shah Bano's personal law, because according to the Muslim Shariat, under which she's governed, maintenance was only for the period of iddat, which is about 3 months and not a lifelong thing, right? So that created so much of an unrest that unfortunately the central government at that time had to overturn that Supreme Court judgment. And that time also the debate was about, give me this right, give me the right that I'm entitled to, And as is the debate right now that Yasmin and Rakhi, these two ladies that I spoke to, are going through. Give me this right, this is what I'm entitled to. And these are all things that are governed by their personal laws. Like Rakhi is governed by the Hindu Marriage Act. Yasmin is governed by the Muslim Shariat Act. And that's exactly the debate now, that why can't there be one nation, one law in these matters, so that whichever community you belong to, it's not about being divisive, it's about just ensuring the right recourse to law, whichever religious community you belong to. So how can that be a bad thing? Or is that a bad thing? Now, some of the experts that I spoke to said maybe, a reform in personal law could be another way of looking at it.
Right.
So, in fact, that's what Flavia Agnes, sees as the way forward. That's even what Salman Khurshid, who is the former law minister, sees as the way forward.
If I were to stick my neck out, I would say the same thing, that, it's actually a revision. See, change is inevitable. Old always gives way to new. And revision is, one way where it just makes sense to me to constantly revise whatever laws we have.
And also we have to see it in the context of, like you said, India is a melting pot of cultures. It's a melting pot of people. It's a melting pot of cultures, traditions, practices, things that have existed for centuries.
Right.
So in order to, even if the UCC has to be introduced, even if it means a just, kinder, gentler, kind of recourse to, gender
various laws and how,
yes,
the justice system works.
Yeah, so we need to kind of build a consensus around it. This needs to be explained. This needs to be, people need to understand why this will work in their favor. So that at the end of the day is what matters.
So there are potential, positives of UCC as well. Jilani ji, in terms of, potential positives and negatives on the Libra scale, which weighs heavier?
See, you can comment on positives and negatives only if you know what the draft says. So we have been waiting.
So you're one who says that I'm going to wait for the draft to come out, and then possibly talk about the positives and the negatives.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll just bring in 2 points here, Kabir, if you allow me. One is, it's not as simple as we are making it. It's very complicated. Complicated in the sense, and another point is the political aspect. Complicated, it's because whenever somebody talks about UCC, they refer to the directive principles. There I want to comment, like, there are 19 directive principles, and we have seen debates on only 2 things. One is UCC, another is cow protection. Why is not anybody talking about equal work and equal pay? Why is there no debate on that? Why is anybody not talking about healthcare? Why is anybody not talking about nutrition? So directive principles are there, but as Article 44 says, the state should endeavor. Endeavoring doesn't mean that you can enforce it, right? So I think one aspect is that there has to be a debate, and the debate can happen only after we know what the integrities, what the nitty-gritties of the draft are. Another aspect is why it is political, which I explained. It's political because it gives you political dividends. If you talk about UCC,
because of the emotional quotient,
because of
and how emotionally charged these elections are. And Barkha ji is saying that it's election year all across the year in our country.
That's what I'm saying. Why can't we talk about child care, nutrition? Why don't we talk about health? Why don't we talk about equal work and equal pay across the year? When was the last time we had a debate on equal work and equal pay? One last point.
Okay.
It is complicated, which was my second point. Why is it complicated? Article 44 of the Constitution gives you directive principles, right, which mentions the equal. But again, the same Constitution has Article 25 to 28, which gives you a right to practice your religion. So where do you draw a line? That's why I'm saying it's complicated. It's not, there has to be a debate, as Lakshna was rightly pointing out. It has to be a debate.
Which is why we're here together, gentlemen and ladies.
There has to be a
that, we're here to talk about it.
It has to be done only after mutual consensus of all the stakeholders.
And I think the government is taking the right step in putting that draft out in public domain. It's open to public criticism, which is the way it should go. Barkha ji, we're going to let you have the final say in this show, because the idea is to keep talking about UCC until it finally comes and it's amongst us. This one size fits all, one nation, one ration. Very funnily, I saw a sportsman wearing a jersey that read "One Nation, One Human Being" right at the back of their jersey. is this the right way of going about it? This one size that fits all, or like Lakshna was talking about, reformation that is needed. We need to look beyond a hardline strategy, maybe a middle ground, where everybody meets each other halfway. That is something that's more doable.
My suggestion would be one nation, one law. We should bring UCC, just like we brought the Ram Mandir, just like we brought abrogation of 377. We wish, I wish, and the nation is ready to have UCC. But it's again, they are building the consensus. That is why we are here to debate, discuss. But it is the need of the hour. But we need to see the draft at the same time. You cannot fool the people. It cannot be a gimmick. Let's see the draft. Because enough of it that the draft, nobody has seen the draft. We've been discussing. I wonder why the people who are the people who are arguing that they don't want UCC, when they haven't even seen the draft, how can they oppose? Just because they need to oppose everything, they are opposing it. But it is for the betterment of each and every citizen of the country. I feel like this. But firstly, I would like to see the draft. Then only I can comment.
Certainly. Mr. Jilani wants to come in here.
See, we are talking about we don't have a draft, but often we refer to Goa Civil Code, and that is being lauded as the only example that we have in the country where there is a
not the only example. It's the closest that we have to a
but there are also issues
uniform
in that.
code.
Issues in that it's not one law for every citizen. It gives
there are exceptions.
It gives exceptions to Hindus in polygamy if the wife doesn't conceive after 21 years. Then we talk about none other than Sushil Modi, who is the chairman of the parliamentary committee.
He spoke about the tribals not being
he talked about excluding tribals. Yes. So how do you talk about one nation, one law then? So I think there.
I heard someone saying, I'm sorry to interrupt, I heard someone saying that tribals will be exempted.
That's
so if you are going to accept tribals, then why not Muslims?
That's what
this is not going to work.
That's exactly what we're saying. Barkaji, this is what Sushil Modi said. I mean, he is the head of that parliamentary panel. He was the first person. I mean, all the headlines were talking about that only.
None other than him saying if.
Yeah, and the headline was the fact that it's a BJP, former leader, former minister who's come out and went on to say.
And the tribals have a very, very interesting, their own cultures and practices where
Rituals,
in fact the women have many husbands. It's the opposite of polygamy. Yeah. So how are you going to take all of that into consideration?
It is getting really interesting. A final comment, then we'll really have to close this down. I'm at a real positive time here.
We have to get away. We have to get away with all these personal laws, no polygamy, nothing. Now we have to have another one law for the whole nation. That is UCC. Nobody has to be exempted. If we want really to bring in UCC, there might be Sushil Modi ji might have said something, but what my opinion is that UCC, if we bring it UCC, it should be in the right order, right place.
And it will be for the benefit of the entire nation, right? Well, certainly. Barkat Rehanji, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Many thanks for joining with us and helping us out with your insightful inputs. Lakshna and Ghulam, always a pleasure to be speaking to you as well. A really brilliant documentary. We're going to leave the viewers with that documentary. But needless to say, the discussion is still out there.
Do you see how all of us have such varied points of view, and that's exactly what this whole debate on UCC is about, right? That you have so many points of view, and this is something that concerns all of us, right? I mean, imagine somebody it concerns how you do it concerns your marriage, it concerns your divorce, it concerns your property, your adoption. So why will you not want to have an opinion about it, right?
I'm just worried maybe the government is being a little too hasty with it because the 2024 deadline is right around the corner.
So the government, in fact,
I just don't want any hasty decisions to take place.
No. So in fact, when I spoke to the government point of view, we had Sushil Modi and we had Nalin Kohli as well. So when I asked him, I said, "So why now?" He said, "Is 75 years too late?" It's existed in the directive principles. So according to the government, 75 years is too late.
In my opinion, 75 years is nothing in terms of pages of history. We're way too young as a nation, and all I want is benefit of all and no hasty decisions ahead of 2024. That's the idea. If UCC has to come in, there has to be due deliberation and discussion and discourse and debate and some of those steps, I mean, consensus will come after these particular particular
Yeah.
steps. It's important that we keep on having conversations like this.
Of course.
And of course, Barkhaji's inputs are always evergreen. Many thanks for joining with us. Ladies and gentlemen, download the News 9 Plus application. It's not just about UCC, about politics. If you think politics is boring for you, we've got lots and lots of entertainment documentaries over there as well. Let's not forget sports and other natural wildlife documentaries, all there for you. It's not 40 minutes, 50 minutes, it's just 10 minutes, 9 minutes. The time that you have, we will make sure we leave you informed. That's all the time we have for you. Take a look at this snippet and keep watching News9 Live.
The Uniform Civil Code has been envisaged and has existed in the Constitution of India from 1950.
One nation, one law will not work at all in our country. Is it fair to the people to have all the laws stuck down in one shot and to bring in the UCC?
Any such law cannot be concerned with the way you solemnize your marriage, your customs, your rituals.
The idea is to bring up to speed equity and dignity for our daughters as much as for our sons.
Why am I doing this story? Because it concerns me. As a woman, as a reporter, as it should concern you. My rights are what gives me dignity. But are my rights different from yours? If I belong to another religion in India, if I get divorced, or if my husband wants to marry again, or if I want to inherit my family's property, or if I want to adopt a child. I was too young to understand what Shahbano was fighting for. But today, as a reporter, I went to Saharanpur with lanes like Shahbano's Indore to understand why my rights and hers are so different, and why the debate on the Uniform Civil Code should matter to all of us.
मेरा नाम राखी है। मेरी उम्र 35 वर्ष है। मैं मुजफ्फरनगर की रहने वाली हूँ। मेरी शादी यहाँ पे सहारनपुर में हुई है।
मैं यूपी से बिलोंग करती हूँ। मैंने एमए किया इकोनॉमिक्स से जी।
शादी के बाद जो मेरे हस्बैंड थे वो अच्छे नहीं थे।
हमारे शौहर पहले शुरू में तो सही रहते थे, मगर बाद में कहना शुरू कर दिया था कि मैंने तुम्हारे से शादी लालच में करी है।
किसी और लड़की से बात करते थे और मैं खुद उन्हें दूसरे के पास से लेके भी आई हूँ। इसलिए घर में बहुत ज़्यादा झगड़े करते थे। उन्होंने फिर मुझे मार पीट के घर से निकाल दिया।
उनका लालच इतना बढ़ता चला गया कि वो मुझसे बोलने लगे कि हमने तो तुम्हारे से लालच में शादी करी थी, अब जब हमारा लालच पूरा नहीं हुआ तो अब हम तुम्हारा क्या अचार डालें। और मैं अब ये कहने लगे थे कि अब मैं दूसरी शादी करूँगा, अब तू बुर्का ओढ़ और तुझे अभी घर छोड़ के आऊँगा।
Rewind to circa 1985. The Shahbano judgment. Abandoned by her husband, Shahbano went to court like Rakhi and Yasmin.
All she wanted was maintenance for herself and her 5 children. And by that time she was almost 70. And the Supreme Court favored her. And her husband lost the case. This was seen as an act of interference. It was the Rajiv Gandhi government which succumbed to the mulladom and without realizing the consequences.
Circa 2023. Has anything changed? Is Yasmin any better off than Shahbano?
मैं तो कोर्ट भी गई हूँ, मैंने अपनी एप्लीकेशन भी डाली उनके खिलाफ, मगर अभी तक अब मुझे वहाँ से कोई इंसाफ नहीं मिला। सिर्फ अब देखिए 1.5 साल हो गया मुझे लड़ते लड़ते।
सिर्फ एक मेंटेनेंस के लिए ही तो आई थी शाहबानो। शाहबानो भी तब मजबूर थी, आज यास्मीन भी मजबूर है।
Rakhi can claim protection from a second marriage of her husband and maintenance under Section 13A of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955. Yasmin cannot under the Sharia Application Act 1937.
दोनों औरतें हैं, both are women, both are Indians, but the difference is they belong to different community, different religion. तो ये जो रिलीजन की जो दीवार है ये खत्म होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि इट्स अ वायलेशन ऑफ आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन।
ऐसी दोहरी व्यवस्था से देश कैसे चल पाएगा? हमें याद रखना है कि भारत के संविधान में भी नागरिकों के समान अधिकार की बात कही गई है।
India is home to people from the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian and Buddhist communities, amongst many others. So far, laws relating to marriage, divorce, inheritance and adoption are governed by different laws in different communities. These are religion-based personal laws. The proposed Uniform Civil Code seeks to enforce a uniform legal framework for all citizens, irrespective of their religion. So why is the Uniform Civil Code being so hotly debated?
देश में जो दूसरे मज़ाहिब के लोग यहाँ रहते हैं और हिंदुस्तान के आइन और दस्तूर ने जो उनको रहने का हक दिया है, हम उसको कभी छोड़ नहीं सकते। हम शरीयत को कभी नहीं छोड़ सकते। हम शरीयत के लिए जीते हैं और शरीयत के लिए मरते हैं।
It's not only personal laws of the minorities, but it's also the personal laws of the majority.
This does not require a uniform civil code. This requires a reform of the respective laws of various religions.
Even the Hindu law is not fair to women. So there is HUF property, there's so many other discrimination. Can you rectify all this by bringing in the Uniform Civil Code?
Why should a woman get less than what a man is getting? Under what law? I mean, these are wrong, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, we speak so much of gender equality, but when it comes to wealth, we'll say no. When it comes to maintenance, we'll say no. Then what kind of a civilization are we living in?
So is 75 years something that's not happened? Is that too fast? Is there ever going to be a time when it'll be right then? So this is as good as a time as any other time.
देखिए, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड के बारे में तो बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में जो डिबेट हुई, ये तो उसी समय लागू हो गया होगा।
At that time, Dr. Ambedkar thought it will be optional. It was never to be imposed.
जो डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी है, उसके सेक्शन, उसकी धारा जो 44 है, उसी में इस बात का जिक्र है कि द स्टेट विल एंडेवर टू इम्प्लीमेंट कॉमन सिविल कोड।
Article 44 of the Constitution says that we shall endeavor. So what does it mean? Right now we are not ready. We shall endeavor in some time in future. Nothing has been done over it and no consensus has been built.
Can it be argued that the directive principles of state policy, where Uniform Civil Code exists in Article 44, is bad for Indian citizens? Can the Constitution be bad for a set of citizens? No, it's a package. The Constitution in its entirety has been adopted. You don't have a choice as a citizen to say, I like Part 3, which are fundamental rights. I don't like Part 4, which is directive principles of state policy. So let me ask a question. Our Constitution, we all became Indian citizens. Through the Constitution, we are all equal before law, Article 14. We all are given the freedom of speech and expression, of life and liberty, protection of life and liberty.
Article 25 is fundamental right. It will endanger their rights to to propagate their religious traditions, to follow their own customs and traditions.
Constitution is one. Citizens are one. This is not about religion. This is about rights of Indian citizens.
You cannot just simply support a proposition which says personal law has no place in India. You can't say that. Anyone saying that there are many countries in the world that have only one single law is not true. Even America doesn't have one single law. Every state has its own law. So why are they speaking lies about something that is, according to them, very important for India?
इस प्रकार के जो फैमिली लॉज हैं आपके व्यक्तिगत अपने तरीके से रहेंगे, रीति रिवाज लोग कंफ्यूज करते रिचुअल्स को लेकर। आपका काजी विवाह कराएगा, मेरे यहाँ पंडित कराएगा, कि यहाँ 7 फेरा होगा, ये आर्य समाजी तरीके से होगा। लेकिन एक व्यक्ति एक विवाह करेगा, शादी का रजिस्ट्रेशन होना चाहिए, इसमें क्या किसी को आपत्ति होनी चाहिए?
21st Law Commission has brought out a report which is 185 pages long, marking everything why uniform civil code is not necessary at this moment and why it is not feasible. And secondly, what are the discrimination in different personal laws and how they have to be rectified. So their concern was also gender justice. So they said every law which is gender unjust has to be made gender equal. So the fear of a UCC was not there, but a family law reform was very much there. And that the government did not touch, did not act on it. So that is the concern.
Again, the same question, that a law commission recommendation is not final. Where does finality come? It comes from Parliament.
Now elections are almost around the corner. So suddenly the government has brought in this. So it is to fulfill their electoral agenda.
That is the allegation being built by those who wish to do politics on Uniform Civil Code. For those who wish to create a fear psychosis in the minds and hearts of Indian citizens.
उसको अध्ययन किया, देखा वो पोर्चुगीज लॉ है, जिस पोर्चुगीज लॉ को जब गोवा अलग हुआ तब उसको अडॉप्ट कर लिया गया। लेकिन आज कॉमन सिविल कोड सफलतापूर्वक अगर गोवा में चल सकता है, वहाँ मुसलमान भी उसको अगर मान्य करते तो देश के बाकी राज्यों में क्यों नहीं हो सकता?
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ।
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired military generals are openly saying that Imran Khan is a better choice.
Imran Khan may have bitten a bit too much, more than what he can chew.
Implosion. This and more. Streaming on world's first news OTT. News9 Plus. Download now.
Pakistan is actually genociding Baloch people. So being Baloch is a crime. If you are a Baloch, it means in the eyes of Pakistan, you don't have any right to live.
The Chinese and Pakistanis are colonizing the Baloch and exploiting their resources.
The Baloch armed struggle will continue unless China withdraws, Pakistan military withdraws from Balochistan and give Baloch complete authority to decide for themselves.
The Baloch feel that if they don't act now, they will become marginalized.
What lies ahead for Balochistan?
Balochistan, Bangladesh 2.0, streaming now.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ.
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.
The retired